You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. It's June the 19th. Good morning, Rev Kelly. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm so good. It's middle of June, and look how sunny it is. First day of summer's
Exactly.
this week.
I know,
The solstice.
right? Looking
Yeah.
nice. It's looking nice out there.
I think we're
That's
gonna have
for
a good
sure.
one. Good summer
Yes.
coming.
Summer's coming. Exactly. Actually, the solstice, all that stuff. It's coming up, right? Like in the
It's
next
this
couple of
week.
days.
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Exactly.
Solstice.
Oh, and happy birthday to my sister as well.
Happy birthday to
today.
Al's sister.
Yes, that's right. It's her birthday today. 29 still. You know
29.
how it is.
Yes, we never age past 29.
All righty. Well, shall we get into the news? Or first, is there anything you want to talk about?
Let's talk about it
cannabis
after.
sample?
We have a big event coming up Sunday. We'll talk about it a little bit later in the broadcast when we have some time.
All right. Sounds good. All right.
Yeah.
First story. Senate Committee on Indigenous Peoples calls for jurisdiction over cannabis possession, sale, and distribution in Canada. And this comes to us from Stratcan.
Wow. The committee's report is intended to inform the work of the ongoing legislative review of the Cannabis Act, which is expected to table the report next year, 2024.
Yep. The report argues that the Cannabis Act has failed to recognize the argument made by many First Nations representatives in the lead up to legalization in regards to desire for jurisdictional authority around how cannabis sold and distributed on First Nations land. And in 2018, the committee called for delaying legalization until these issues were resolved.
The report concludes that this has effectively shut out First Nation participation in the cannabis industry in Canada. Among the report's 13 recommendations is for legislation to amend the Federal Cannabis Act to allow First Nations to regulate the possession, sale, and distribution of cannabis on their lands. The committee also calls for increased funding for policing and enforcement of First Nation cannabis laws and additional funding and training for First Nations police services.
The report also notes that only a small portion of First Nations owned or affiliated cannabis businesses have received a federal commercial business or cannabis license. Now, according to Brian Francis, the chair of the committee, he says it is disappointing to once again be forced to try to correct oversights that could have been prevented had the federal government listened to First Nations people from the beginning. In the spirit of reconciliation, the government must promote rather than hinder the full and equal participation of our people and communities in the economy.
The report also calls for more supports for First Nations communities with enforcement of their own cannabis rules and regulations. One example the report provides is from Edward Leonard Butch of the First Nations Chiefs of Police Association, who told the committee that First Nations police services have noted that illicit dispensaries are operating on their territories.
Bush says the fines issued to these stores were not sufficient deterrence, noting that it's anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. A lot of these dispensaries make that in a day. The majority of the dispensaries open the same day or the next day after we execute a search warrant on the premises.
The report calls on the government of Canada to ensure better funding is available to Indigenous communities for the policing and enforcement of banned bylaws related to cannabis. Wow.
There are a handful of federally licensed cannabis producers that are owned, at least in part, by members of the First Nations communities. The federal government also maintains an Indigenous Navigator program to help First Nations affiliated companies navigate the application process.
While provincial governments control cannabis sales and distribution in their jurisdiction, several provincial governments have also been providing assistance to First Nations in their quest to operate cannabis stores.
Yeah, in BC, they've created a special agreements with First Nations seeking to operate cannabis retail and production licenses in the province. And Saskatchewan recently passed legislation giving First Nations the authority to license cannabis retailers in their territories.
Wow. Many Indigenous communities in Canada have disputed this interpretation, saying that they'd have the right to manage cannabis as they see fit, either restricting it or regulating it. Wow, wow. This is a big study that's been the
Um,
report
well,
here.
yeah, it's good that it's been done.
Whew.
The Oswos Indian band, I know I messed that up, first passed a moratorium against any cannabis stores in the community back in 2019. But the community then adopted their own Indian Board cannabis bylaw in 2021, citing Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982, which recognizes and affirms the existing Aboriginal self government and treaty rights of the Aboriginal peoples of Canada.
Right, and some of them even have it hanging up in their store. That's what they are riding on. Now, the
Mhm.
OIB's corporate plan for the 2018-2022 includes their intention to open a new legal cannabis growing facility and new cannabis retail outlets, and the band licensed their first retailer in September 2020.
Yeah, and many First Nations community leaders argue for their own authority to manage cannabis sales and even production. Some legal experts and activists have also seen the potential to utilize the issues surrounding cannabis licensing to highlight overarching and historical jurisdictional challenges to federal and provincial laws.
Wow. It goes on to talk about we've reported on these before, the
Yeah,
Indigenous suing the government over a store, and then, of course, the Millbrook First Nation in Nova Scotia, arrested in 2020 for the police raid at that Indigenous cannabis stores. Now, they're mounting a constitutional defense, arguing that the right is to sell cannabis on First Nations land is constitutionally protected.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
They say that representatives from the Senate Committee on Indigenous People Committee spoke to the media today on the CPAC, and Deputy Chair of the committee, Senator David Arnott, said he is disappointed that the government is failing to live up to its promises of reconciliation.
Saying, once again, a government that says it is committed to building a renewed relationship with Indigenous peoples based on the recognition of rights, respect, and partnership has failed to live up to its promise. Once again, Indigenous peoples have been excluded from participation in the economy prosperity of the country. And once again, little regard has been given to how our lives have been impacted. That's a huge statement.
Well, let's hope that this report helps to change that.
Yeah, they're looking for more dollars for policing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we don't hear a lot of policing happening on these reserves when it comes to cannabis, but we don't hear a lot of problems. We don't hear of any issues or anything. We hear a lot of harm reduction. We hear a lot of enterprise, but that whole like, what are we needing the policing for? The people that are coming on the land to buy the cannabis? What's going on?
What's going on? Who knows?
Hmm.
Alrighty, on to our next story. This one comes to us from Global News. Kingston, Ontario Psychedelic Wellness Company partners with St. Lawrence College on a program.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, research into drug use has come a long way since the Just Say No campaigns of the 1990s, that's for sure. Now, the focus is shifting to the therapeutic benefits of psychedelics treating mental illnesses like anxiety, depression, and PTSD. St. Lawrence College in Kingston is looking to lead the way in psychedelic wellness movement.
Yeah, as I was saying to you before the show, Kelly, that and it's great to hear about these studies being done and knowing that one is done like an hour and a half up the road
Right.
from us.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, they say over 60% of our academic programming relates to health and well-being, says John Conrad, Director of Innovation and Business Engagement at the St. Lawrence College. He says, so those students that are in those programs, these are new skills and new competitive competencies. I can't get that word out. That they're going to need to have.
The college is partnering with local psychedelic wellness company Numa to launch a 5-week course providing students with an understanding of the history, science, principles, and philosophy of psychedelics in therapeutic care.
New co-founder Corey Firth says renewed interest in psychedelics is coming from the current mental health crisis. He says that, Corey, it could be the other way. They say that what we're really trying to do with this program is to show people that they have more control over their mental health and they have tools. Psychedelics are just a tool and a vehicle to sort of help them understand themselves better.
The course will provide an interactive learning platform for live and self guided content, lectures, and hundreds of hours of additional resources. They will also have the option to participate in 2 group psychedelic experiences using cannabis, which is currently the only legalized psychedelic, the benefits of which, Firth says, can be complex. Interesting.
Yeah, because the fact that cannabis is illegal
Yeah.
is legal here, right?
Hmm.
So there is something called the default mode network, which is sort of the frontal part of our brain in the frontal lobe, and there's really where that's really where our identity is stored and where our ego is stored. He says, they say.
So, what psychedelics actually do is they help us to down regulate our default mode network and allow us to move into other parts of the brain and other parts of our body to understand things on a more truth level in terms of what the emotions really mean.
Yep, and it all gets started on June the 28th, and they hoping to expand as time goes on.
Wow.
It's good. It's good to see more research, and it's
That,
done here in
yeah,
Canada.
right there,
So,
Kingston.
yeah,
We could drive there and watch
yeah,
it being done. Like, that's amazing. Yeah.
yeah, really, eh? All righty, on to the next story. This one comes to us from the marijuana moment. Congressional Cannabis Caucus leaders react to marijuana scheduling update from top Biden official.
Congressional cannabis reform leaders said that they are encouraged that a top Biden administration official told Marijuana Moment on Thursday that he believes a cannabis scheduling review that he's overseeing could be completed this year.
Boy, that's be nice. It's only
Mm.
6 months left in the year. In the news, since President Joe Biden directed the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and Justice Department to carry out the administrative review, advocates and stakeholders have eagerly waited for the status update. HHS Secretary Xavier Bursa finally offered a tentative timeline, saying he hopes to send the president a scheduling decision this year. Hopes.
3 co-chairs of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus weighed in on the news in statements to Marijuana Moment, expressing cautious optimism that the secretary will follow through with actions in the coming months.
I will be disappointed if we cannot make significant progress within a year, according to Rep. Earl Blumauer. There should be greater sense of urgency for this long overdue action. Yes, it is long overdue.
Blumauer also led a letter to Bucara and Attorney General Merrick Garland in March, alongside 15 other bipartisan members of Congress, demanding transparency in the cannabis scheduling review.
Now, the letter said that Biden's scheduling directive represents an opportunity to make honest assessment of the origins and implications of federal policy, adding that marijuana was scheduled based on stigma, not science, and it's time to address the marijuana's existing reality as a state's regulated substance. Here,
Republican
here.
Dave Joyce told Marijuana Moment on Friday that he's glad to have the support of Secretary Becerra to work on a common sense, extensive review of the scheduling process. And Republican Barbara Lee made clear that she wants the review to conclude with a determination to remove cannabis from the Controlled Substance Act entirely. Yeah, go Barbara.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Federal descheduling is long overdue, the Congresswoman told Marijuana Moment. We've been pushing the Biden administration to take bold steps to end the war on drugs, and I'm hopeful they will.
Yes, me too.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so, because it's long, long overdue. There's
Yep.
no doubt about that. It's one of those things that just seems to take forever for some reason. This doesn't make sense.
No.
All right. On to some more studies. Here we go. Psilocybin shows promise in OCD treatment, even without the psychedelic trip. And this comes to us from SitePost.
SitePost. Blocking the subjective psychedelic effects of psilocybin does not appear to interfere with the substance's ability to potentially help with obsessive behaviors. According to new research published in Translational Psychiatry, the findings contribute to the growing body of research in the clinical application of psychedelics in psychiatry and highlight the need to further investigation in clinical trials to evaluate the efficacy and safety of psilocybin in the treatment of obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD.
Yep. Psilocybin is naturally occurring psychedelic compound found in mushrooms. They can help with perception of mood and recognition, stuff like that. Psilocybin has shown promise as a potential therapeutic agent for various mental health conditions, including depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and addiction. Primary studies have suggested that psilocybin-assisted therapy can have long-lasting positive effects on mental health, well-being, and quality of life.
OCD is a debilitating disorder characterized by uncontrollable thoughts and repetitive behaviors. While current treatments such as antidepressants and cognitive behavior therapy can be effective, a significant number of patients did not respond to these treatments, highlighting the need for alternative therapeutic options.
Yeah. Now, study author Bernard Lerner, a psychiatric professor at Hebrew University, says that we are very interested in the potential of psychedelic drugs to treat psychiatric disorders, particularly in patients who do not respond well to standard medications. For that reason, we founded the Hadhas Brain Labs Center for Psychedelic Research, where we do extensive research on psychedelic drugs. Obsessive compulsive disorder is one of the conditions in which a high portion of patients do not respond well to standard treatment, at least a third.
Wow. There is preliminary evidence from studies in patients with psilocybin that psilocybin can help patients with OCD, but psilocybin induces a psychedelic trip, and this requires special management. We think psilocybin could help patients with OCD without the trip, and how do we achieve this? As the quote says.
Well, it goes on to say that we have shown in a different study that the medication buspirone, which is used to treat anxiety, blocks a mouse equivalent of the psychedelic trip, and another researcher has shown that it does so in humans. We wanted to find out whether psilocybin could be effective in a mouse model for anti-obsessional effects, marble bearing, and whether it would do so even in the presence of buspirone, which blocks the trip.
So we're using a chemical to block the trip, and then we're using mushrooms to do what? I'm a little bit confused by that. It sounds a little funny here. The study utilized a preclinical model called the marble burying test, which measures the propensity of rodents to dig and cover objects placed in their cages. The test is considered to have reasonable predictivity validity for identifying drugs that may be effective to treat OCD. Previous studies using the marble burying test have shown that psilocybin and other psychedelic compounds reduce marble burying in mice, suggesting their potential therapeutic effect in OCD. Okay.
In this study, the researchers aimed to examine the role of serotonin receptors, which are the primary target of psilocybin, and its effect on marble bearing. They also sought to investigate the involvement of serotonin receptors against serotonin receptor subtype in psilocybin's effect. Additionally, the study explored the impact of different administration methods and the persistence of the anti-marble bearing effect after 7 days.
The researchers conducted the experiments using male mice. They administered various drugs, including psilocybin and other compounds that selectively target the H2T receptors through interpretational injection. The mice underwent the marble bearing test, where the number of marbles buried by the mice was measured after drug administration. They also performed an open field test to assess locomotor activity and a head twitch response test, which is associated with psychedelic effects. Wow, this is a very detailed study here, Al.
It is, isn't
Whew.
it? Eh? The results of the study showed that the mice treated with psilocybin buried significantly fewer marbles compared to the control group. This reduction in marble bearing was similar to the effect observed with, I'm not even going to pronounce that word, indicating that psilocybin may have a similar therapeutic effect as antidepressant medication in the treatment of OCD.
I think if I had to be the scientist studying these mice burying marbles, I would want to be on magic mushrooms to deal with that for sure. I'm taking my own. Interestingly, blocking the receptors using a selective antagonist did not prevent the marble burying effect of the psilocybin, suggesting that the effect is not mediated by the receptor activation. On the other hand, the Basarapine, the chemical we were talking about, blocked the effects of the psilocybin on the head twitch response test and not impeding the psilocybin's effect on the marble bearing. So they still buried the marbles, but it
Still
didn't
buried the
trip them
marbles.
out.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So this is a long
It's really long.
study here.
Whoa.
It is on
Yeah.
our Facebook page.
Okay.
For anybody who wants to take a look at it.
Good
Yeah.
luck.
All right. Let's see. Next up, we are going to MJ Biz Daily because they have a report that says, come on. Czech Republic might push ahead with cannabis legalization, according to analysts.
That's huge. That's right beside Russia. How are they going to do that?
Mm.
Let's find out. The Czech Republic could
Let's find
still
out.
move ahead with adult use cannabis legalization in some form, despite legal and political hurdles and Germany's partial retreat from its plan to regulate cannabis sales.
That's according to research note from Owen Bennett, an analyst for New York headquartered investment banking company Jefferies. It appears the Czech Republic still hopes to move ahead, but is waiting for Germany's scaled back draft law to be published to gauge the European Commission's reaction. And Bennett wrote that, citing a report in industry publication Business of Cannabis.
Wow, a little disappointed there, Germany. Bennett wrote that cannabis regulation faces legal hurdles under both international and European law, but he noted the likely bigger stumbling block for legal challenges lies in the issue of the free movement of goods and services, which is one of the pillars of the EU.
Yeah, this is we understand it's one of the main reasons Germany scaled back its plans. Germany requires European assurance that its plan to regulate cannabis wouldn't violate international law because the country is part of the Schengen area, which comprises 27 countries that have officially abolished passport and other countries or other controls at their mutual borders. Yeah. This is where they ran into the problem before.
So the other ones aren't legal, so it would affect that. According to Bennett, if only a few countries in Europe end cannabis prohibition and employ a system of regulated sales, that creates potential problems for states that have not legalized cannabis because of the continent's free movement of goods and services.
For us, what happens here will be a key watch out, the analyst wrote. If the Czech Republic pushes ahead and there potentially is not an illegal challenge, or there is, and it's successful, or indeed it pursues one of its other solutions, then this could provide motivation for other countries like Germany that have been considering a recreational market but were worried about repercussions to also move ahead.
They do have stores there in the Czech Republic. A friend of mine was just there taking a picture showing that they do have stores, illegal stores, but they're stores.
Yeah.
Now, the Business of Cannabis reported that Czech Minister of Health Let's was waiting for Germany to unveil its draft law and see how the European Commission responds, citing the health sector news website Zdrav Zdraví.
It sounds like you go first. No, you go first.
Yeah.
No, you go first. Yeah. The Toronto-based publication noted that the more cautious approach is at odds with the Czech anti-drug coordinator Jindřich Volbril, who is reportedly pushing ahead with the establishment of a commercial market.
Okay. Well, there could be unforeseen political hurdles. The health minister reportedly also noted there's currently not a consensus among the ruling five-party coalition regarding cannabis reform.
There you go.
So close.
So close. Another one. So close.
So close.
Well, it's time for us to take a break.
Okay.
Kelly and I'll be back in about 4 minutes or so. I'm going to run a special little feature promo here before we get into the commercial break, and we'll see everybody on the other side.
Is 420 camping your thing? Do you like cannabis cups? Want to learn more about cannabis? Enjoy music festivals? Living on the East Coast or looking for a really good reason to visit? Then Harvest Fest is calling your name.
Join us the weekend of July 14th to 16th at Fox Mountain Camping Park in the Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia, to meet like-minded people, have your cannabis questions answered, listen to great bands, and have a blast.
Service lots available and camping is included in festival admission. $60 for the weekend or $30 for Friday and $40 for Saturday. Food trucks, hot showers, flush toilets, and accessible washrooms. Rolling contest sponsored by Canadian Lumber Limited, with chances to win a case of rolling papers and more throughout the weekend.
For info about attending or vending, email chair@mumm.ca. Hope to see you there.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to savethevcbc@gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com. CBG TV broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net. Hey, we're back. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're live here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. Well, Kelly, we got 5 more stories to go, and we got 30 minutes. I'm sure we'll get it all covered.
Great.
All right. First story up. Pineapple Express ends deliveries as Fire and Flower filing for creditors protection. And this comes to us from StratCan.
Businesses utilizing the services say they were given no notice of the company's plans to close. And in the case of one province, were left searching for a replacement. An email to Pineapple Express seeking more information was not replied to. An email to Fire and Flower was returned with an auto reply about the company filing for credit protection.
Fire and Flower completed their acquisition of Pineapple Express in 2022, with Fire and Flower's then CEO saying the acquisition of Pineapple Express Delivery marks the final step in building what we believe to be the cannabis industry's first end-to-end consumer technology experience. The company paid more than $11 million for the delivery service.
Pineapple Express was providing cannabis delivery services in Ontario, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and British Columbia. The day after Fire and Flower announced its application for creditor protection, the BC Cannabis Store, which uses the service for deliveries in much of the Lower Mainland, announced it would no longer be offering next-day delivery for customers in the Metro Vancouver area. Instead, delivery will only be offered through Canada Post.
The announcement was made quietly the day after the provincial retailer temporarily suspended delivery for the Metro Vancouver area after experiencing delays with one of its third-party carriers.
BC had been offering next-day delivery since it announced a partnership in delivery services, Pineapple Express, in early 2022, and the Metro Vancouver region includes many different other cities.
Yeah. Fire and Flower e-commerce and delivery capabilities utilized its subsidiary Fire, a cannabis technology platform, and Candelive cannabis delivery platform. A source with Fire tells StratCan they are still operating while under CCA. A source close to the issue says the move by Fire and Flower came as a surprise to those at Pineapple Express, which has its operations shut down across Canada.
Fire and Flower had recently announced they were entering into a master licensing agreement with Couche-Tard. Couche-Tard had at the time committed to developing Fire and Flower branded retail cannabis stores in Ontario. The first 5 Fire and Flower branded retail cannabis stores were to be opened adjacent to Circle K convenience stores in the GTA locations and previously operating as MC Cannabis Incorporated. Bye-bye. Bye-bye idea.
Bye-bye. That didn't take long. They just bought it. It sounds like just like a year ago.
Yeah.
And already gone. And obviously took, when they shut down, it took out a lot of people's, way of getting cannabis.
Right.
As well as the store itself. So,
Wow.
all righty. On to our next article. And this one comes to us from the Marijuana Moment. Louisiana governor signs marijuana expungements bill into law. All right.
That's right. It's for people with first time cannabis convictions. It's about 2 weeks after the measure from Republic Delish Boyd advanced through the legislature. Governor John Bell Edwards gave final approval last Monday.
Yeah. The legislation makes it so people who are convicted of possessing up to 14 grams of cannabis as a first offense can petition the courts to wipe their record after 90 days from the time of the conviction.
That would significantly speed up the timeline for relief, as current law maintains that people must wait at least 5 years before petitioning for expungement of certain records.
The bill was previously amended in a House committee to specify that eligible misdemeanor cannabis possession cases cannot involve more than 14 grams. An original provision was also removed that would have waived court proceeding fees for first-time cannabis expungements. I'd like to see that 14 grams go a little higher. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Now, the measure, the effective date for which is August 1st, sets a $300 cap on fees for the record clearing. The clerk shall immediately direct the collected processing fees provided to the sheriff and district attorney, and the processing fee amount shall be remitted immediately upon receipt in equal proportions to the office of the district attorney and the sheriff's general fund, the bill text says.
Yeah. Further, the legislation includes a template for a motion to expunge that people can fill out and submit to the court jurisdiction.
Okay.
So getting rid of some of your old records, for having cannabis. So it's good to get rid of them. Nice and easy in some places and harder in others. Like
Only
here.
up to 14 grams. Anything over that? No.
Yeah. I'd like to see that go a little higher. So
Yeah.
all right. On to the next story. This one also comes to us from the Marijuana Moment. It says that Fetterman touts psilocybin mushrooms as mental health revolution that could boost the economy.
Wow. That's a huge statement. Senator John Fetterman says that psilocybin mushrooms could represent a revolution in mental health treatment and an economic boon for his home state of Pennsylvania, which he referred to as the mushroom capital of the world. Wow.
Yeah. At a Senate Agricultural Subcommittee hearing he chaired on Wednesday, the senator said that he's been an advocate of psychedelics in terms of magic mushrooms for PTSD and for veterans especially.
I always thought it could be, and maybe I'm wrong, an amazing economic kind of boom for the mushroom sector. He told Petro Farms owner Chris Alonzo, I think it could be a revolution in mental health. Are you open to thinking that?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're absolutely open. We're entrepreneurs, but more importantly, we're trying to create healthy food for the community, for the U.S. Alonzo replied. When we look at it, mushroom bacillin goes into products like furniture and soaking up oil. And the nutrition side of the mushrooms, we got through research through the U.S. Department of Agriculture with the Mushroom Council.
So anything that ties in health benefits, medical benefits, we're open to looking at, he said. Obviously, you have to do it within parameters of being secure and safe and responsible, but we're open to it.
The Fetterman, who formerly served as lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania and was strongly advocated for cannabis legalization, has previously said that the country should open up research into psilocybin.
To that end, bipartisan congressional lawmakers recently introduced a bill that would create a $75 million federal grant program to support research into the therapeutic potential of psychedelics for certain health conditions among active duty military service members.
The legislation is being sponsored by Rep. Dan Crenshaw, he's a Republican, who also led a letter to House Appropriations Subcommittee leaders earlier this year, urging them to instruct federal health agencies to include active duty military service members in psychedelic studies. They're saying active duty military members.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not retired. Wow. Meanwhile, the National Institute on Drug Abuse recently started soliciting proposals for a series of research initiatives meant to explore how psychedelics could be used to treat drug addiction, with plans to provide $1.5 million in funding to support relevant studies. Wow.
Yeah. At a Senate committee hearing last month, NIDA's director, Noro Volko, told members that there's emerging evidence that psychedelics carry significant potential as therapeutic treatments for certain mental health conditions, and it's a topic of great interest for researchers.
Last year, Senator Brian Schatz and Cory Booker pushed top federal officials to provide an update on research into therapeutic potential for psychedelics, arguing that ongoing federal prohibition has stymied studies.
Yeah, just like it did with the cannabis.
Yep.
NIDA responded to the inquiry by saying that federal prohibition makes it more difficult to study the benefits of psychedelics, requiring researchers to jump through additional regulatory hoops. Volko previously said that she personally hesitates to study Schedule 1 drugs because of those complications. And yeah,
Yep.
change it, man. Change it.
The director told Marijuana Moment in 2021 that the researchers need to prioritize psychedelics research as more people are likely to use them as they're exposed to studies showing the therapeutic potential of the substances. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. And in March, bipartisan and bicameral congressional lawmakers filed an updated version of a bill to streamline the federal rescheduling of breakthrough therapies like psilocybin and MDMA in order to promote research and drug development. Well, I'm glad to see that they've done that.
Yeah. So that
So
was
that's
2
something to be
years
done.
ago. I bet you by next
Yeah.
year we'll have even more news to report on. Just more
Well,
progress all the time.
Yes, exactly. All right. This next story. Oh, it comes to us from StratCan, and it says on the headline, more than 100 budtenders in Manitoba accept their first collective agreement.
Wow, so interesting. It's at a
Union
chain of
accept-
retail stores in Manitoba. They've signed their collective agreement with the United Food and Commercial Workers, the UFCW, highlighting concerns with safety rates of pay and that they say are unfair penalties.
Yeah, the new 30-month agreement was signed on June the 14th and covers employees at the 10 The Joint locations in the province. The Joint also has stores in Saskatchewan and Alberta. The union first received a province-wide certificate in June of 2022 after workers contacted the UFCW Local 832 about joining the union.
So interesting. I bet it's going to spur other people in provinces to do this. I'm proud of our new members who stood up for their rights to join UFCW and work together on not only organizing their workplace, but also working with us to obtain the first collective agreement for cannabis retail workers in the province of Manitoba. That's right.
Yeah, the union says the new 30-month collective agreement addresses numerous concerns that were raised during the organizing drive, such as safety concerns, rates of pay, and unjust disciplines. The union held a meeting for members of the joint on June 13th.
Saying this is a fairly new industry. Since these workers have joined us, we have heard from numerous other cannabis retail workers about joining our union. Many of them have been waiting to see what a collective agreement would provide them. We will continue to work on advocating for all cannabis workers in Manitoba to ensure this industry has the proper protections these workers deserve.
UFCW Local 832 represents over 19,000 Manitobian workers in food production, food distribution, warehousing, hospitality, security, personal care, assisted living, grocery retail, and cannabis retail. Now, Ariel Glinter, the head of business development and regulatory compliance for the joint, says the company is supportive of their employees' decision.
Hey, Al, did you ever think there'd be a union that supported people that sold weed? What? This is amazing.
It's legal.
It's incredible. As a company, we believe that our employees are responsible for our success. And as much as they've always supported our workforce and ensured our goals are aligned with theirs, we are optimistic in entering this relationship and look forward to working alongside the union. So cool.
Now, budtenders and cannabis employees in other provinces have also been unionizing or seeking to do so. A union representing BC cannabis retail employees have slowly been gathering members since it became the first union to represent budtenders in Canada in 2020.
Wow. In August 2022, the BC General Employees Union launched a strike that shut down the province's cannabis and alcohol distribution system, leaving cannabis stores with no access to new deliveries for weeks. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly. And the SQDC, which manages cannabis sales in Quebec, has been dealing with an ongoing strike, which continues in 22 of their 90 branches. Although these branches are still open, they are operating at reduced hours and face picket line pressures.
In June, members of a different union, the Confederation of National Trade Unions, voted to accept an agreement with the SQDC for increased wages, hours, and better working conditions.
The provincial organization is still negotiating with the Canadian Union of Public Employees, which represents 28 of its 90 branches. And in September, the Superior Court of Quebec issued an injunction to limit union pressure tactics against the SQDC.
In 2022, a court ruled a BC cannabis company had unfairly penalized workers for trying to unionize. In September 2020, the union began organizing and soon applied to be certified for 17 employees at Peachland, BC operation.
Yeah, you can't be penalizing them. Then on October 5th, the company laid off 9 employees at the same Peachland operation, citing the company's financial circumstances. The union argued these employees were laid off for seeking to be unionized, and the court agreed.
Wow. And then in 2016, UFCW tried to organize workers at the Med Relief facility in Ontario, but the Ontario Labor Relations Board ruled that the workers did not have the right to unionize. The union has appealed that ruling. 2016, that was before legalization.
Yeah.
It's just medical.
Yeah, then, exactly. All right. Last story of the day. Boy, we're just flying through these, Rev Kelly.
Ooh.
All right. Headline on this one says, come on. There we go. Scientists find cannabis compound inside a totally different plant.
What? They've discovered CBD in a common Brazilian plant, opening potential new avenues to produce the increasingly popular substance.
The team found CBD in the fruits and flowers of a plant known as trema. Oh, there's more to that. Microtha bloom, a shrub which grows across much of the South American country and is often considered a weed. Molecular biologist Rodrigo Maraneto of the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro told AFP.
So CBD, increasingly used by some to treat some conditions like epilepsy, chronic pain, and anxiety, is one of the main active compounds in cannabis, along with THC, of course. The compound's effectiveness as a medical treatment is still under research.
Neto said chemical analysis found that trema contains CBD, but not THC, raising the possibility of an abundant new source of the former, one that would not face the legal and regulatory hurdles of cannabis, which continues to be outlawed in many places, including Brazil.
It's a legal alternative to using cannabis, he says. This is a plant that grows all over Brazil. It would be a simpler and cheaper source of CBD.
Scientists had previously found CBD in a related plant in Thailand, he says. Neto, who has not yet published his results, said he now plans to scale up his study to identify the best methods to extract CBD from trema and analyze its effectiveness in patients with conditions currently treated with medical cannabis.
Yes, please. Let's send everybody there to test that. This is so interesting. His team recently won a 500,000, close to 100,000 US dollars grant from the Brazilian government to fund the research, which he estimates will take at least 5 years. Okay, we need to speed this up. It's too long.
Yeah, a study last year by the market analysis firm Vantage Market Research estimated the global market for CBD at nearly $5 billion and projected it would grow to more than $47 billion by 2028.
Yeah. It's a lot of money.
So they have another plant to help fill the demand.
Wow. I want to know more about that.
There we go. I shut it off. Yes. Yeah. Who knew? That's why we call it, educational news, because we all learn something.
Educational news.
Every day.
That's right. Definitely.
That's right. And talking about learning something, let's see what's going on there, your neck of the woods, as far as Cannabis Temple.
We've got Cannabis Temple on Sunday 2 to 5 p.m. We're going to be in Peterborough this time. We're moving from Keene to Peterborough. We're going to be at Sadler House. It's a really neat spot on George Street. A lot of rentals happen there. Our mutual friend Craig McEachran, he's the one that suggested this because he has done cannabis events there before. So it's nice that Sadler House. So I went to see it, and the gentleman that toured me around said, "Oh, we love cannabis. We love cannabis and we love Pride. You have a perfect home for us here." So it's really neat. And I think we're going to be using their location as much as we can because they do huge discounts for not-for-profits and charities. So big shout out to them, Sadler House on George Street. So it's going to happen on Sunday, and you're going to come, and Mr. Squishy's going to come. So if anybody's listening and wants to have their cannabis squished by Mr. Squishy and Al, and the Canawich is going to come and do testing again. So the whole setup will happen. So bring your weed, you can get it tested, and then you can get it pushed, squished.
So is this a bigger facility than the Arts Center in Keene?
I mean, it's just one floor, whereas the Art Center has two, and there's an outside place. So I don't know if it's bigger, but it's more modern. And there's a stage set up because we're going to have some performers for Pride, and Miss Dabbs is coming, and her wife are coming to do a little performance.
Miss Dabbs and Gabs.
Miss Dabbs and Gabs, they're going to be there. They're so cute. And so we have vendors coming. We have the greatest poutine in Peterborough coming to do a pop-up. It's called Wild Side. They're really famous poutine. And we have a medium coming. I guess a really renowned Peterborough medium is coming to set up a table and do some fortune telling. So it's an event, Al. It's a great event. Tickets are available on HiBnB and Eventbrite, but you can get them in the door too.
Yeah, and you mentioned entertainers. Did you want to mention what you've got coming as far as entertainment?
Besides Gabs and Dabs, we have Count Classy, who's coming to do a hip hop performance, and Al Hashem, who is coming to do. He's just released an album, so he's coming to headline. Wonderful performers volunteering their time to come out because all of this is going to raise funds for Sprott House, which is a YMCA charity in Toronto that helps with LGBTQ youth. So it's all the funds will go back to them. And what's really neat is we had some cannabis dispensaries, some retailers that have donated to us and are giving us prizes for our raffle. So it's a cannabis gives back experience. And it's nice that the local area cannabis retailers and community has really helped to put this on.
Yes, it is, exactly. And we'll be there, not only squishing, will I be there squishing, but I'll also be there covering the event for CBG TV, and we'll be broadcasting that out to all our affiliates so people will be able to see what's going on.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. It's going to be exciting. And Karima Sad's coming to do the same thing. So we've got a little bit of media there too.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, this is how people learn about these things, is by bringing it to people's attention. And that's when I was writing, I was treating myself with advocacy articles. That's what part of the goal is, to let people know that these things are going on, and this is how things can be done. And if you want to do something, this is an idea.
Right. Connecting, networking, and breaking that stigma.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Anything else you want to mention before we go?
do not incarcerate.
That's right. Exactly. All right. Yeah, because I don't have any notes ready for today, so I'm just doing it off the top of my head. Thanks for reminding me. All right. That's our news for today for the Pace News for July the 19th, 2023. And we'd like to thank our sponsors, Legacy420.com, the Campbell Lifestyle Shop, and the Limestone City Hydroponics. And as Rev Kelly says, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. We'll see you all next week. And don't forget, Rev, Cindy, and Glenn, Thursday morning, 10 o'clock. See you all then. Bye-bye.
Is 420 camping your thing? Do you like cannabis cups? Want to learn more about cannabis? Enjoy music festivals? Living on the East Coast or looking for a really good reason to visit? Then Harvest Fest is calling your name.
Join us the weekend of July 14th to 16th at Fox Mountain Camping Park in the Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia, to meet like-minded people, have your cannabis questions answered, listen to great bands, and have a blast.
Service lots available and camping is included in festival admission. $60 for the weekend or $30 for Friday and $40 for Saturday. Food trucks, hot showers, flush toilets, and accessible washrooms. Rolling contest sponsored by Canadian Lumber Limited, with chances to win a case of rolling papers and more throughout the weekend.
For info about attending or vending, email chair@mumm.ca. Hope to see you there.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com. CBG TV broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.